I'm sorry if I play slow today. I mean, it actually really doesn't matter. It's Minecraft. I am so tired right now. I'm tired, but I don't want to go to bed. I'm just exhausted as. I've actually been wanting to do Minecraft for a while. So I've actually been thinking all night tonight at my work about bringing back the Astroneer playthrough, Season 6. Yeah, I remember that when I played Season 5, until my Season 5 world just died. Like, it just wouldn't load. Okay, I've been wanting to react to this guy called IDK Sterling. This guy, a lot of shorts on YouTube are awful, but this dude called IDK, will give him a watch. He is actually entertaining, and some of the facts actually might be useful to you. If you see this, do not record it. What the hell is that thing?
Yeah, if you see this, the last thing you should be doing is recording a TikTok. Instead, you should be going the opposite direction. This is a video that I got tagged in that shows this person recording a live electrical wire. Every time the live end of the wire comes into contact with the water, you can see that it pushes itself backwards into this wall, and it's just perpetually repeating this cycle. Now, I'm sure as many of you guys know, water and electricity is a pretty deadly combination. That's because electricity can very readily travel through water. The main danger here is this person accidentally stepping into a portion of this puddle and then electrocuting themselves. This is actually one of the major risks when a storm hits an area and causes power lines to be knocked down. These downed power lines will make contact with water on the road, and if you get out of your car in the wrong spot, you can get electrocuted and potentially lose your life. Not only this, but this can also cause short circuits, fires, and a whole host of other problems that you don't want.
That is why I'm going to tell you a very good tip. Like, listen to this. This could save your life. If you're in a situation where there are power lines that are downed, stay at least 50 foot away from them. Because what happens is that these lines, when they come down, they'll hit the water covered surface. And it will basically create a field of electricity that it will kill you. I mean, if you're not gonna want to touch the power lines when they're active, you're not gonna want to go near them when they're down. Also, fun fact, I figured out, I didn't actually learn from someone else that electricity and water don't mix. I actually taught that myself. So when I was very young, I had know if you know what it was. It was a purple little computer with yellow little keys. They were rubber keys. And there was like this little kitty computer. But one day when I was gonna go take my bath, I brought my computer into the bathtub. I don't know if my mom told me not to do it, but I did it anyway. And well, sure enough, I dip it below the water and the thing dies. Wouldn't turn on. I definitely remember getting two of those. So yeah. That's a day when my stupid little 10-year-old, like 4-year-old selves figured out, hey, water and electronics don't mix that good. It's actually an interesting way of learning that happened. A lot of people, they get taught that, but I actually learned it myself. Always be careful of the dreaded landslide.
Always be careful of the dreaded landslide.
Oh boy, go, go, go.
Now, I know the question that you have right now is, was the dog okay? And the answer to that is yes. The dog was completely fine. But this video showcases one of nature's most deadly phenomenons known as a landslide.
You don't want to be
And just how
around when that
randomly it can happen.
when that
This
happens.
video was filmed in Peru, and this husky
It's obvious. It's when the ground loses all of its
Rio was walking over to
supportive
the ground
power,
slide,
and it just
causing a landslide.
falls.
And Rio was carried all the way down to the bottom, along with these trees and rocks, and it seemed almost impossible for him to survive. Rio did survive, though, and actually ended up walking the entire way back up this mountain, although tired, okay. Now, landslides are absolutely terrifying, typically caused by an abnormally large amount of water below
Yeah,
the ground.
water
This
usually
causes the
causes
soil
it.
to erode, and even the entire area below this can get swept away. And in many cases, landslides have a devastating effect, even taking people's lives.
Always be careful. These animals are more metal than you think they are.
Oh, kangaroos.
This might surprise you guys, but these animals right here are a lot more vicious than you might think.
Kangaroos?
This is a TikTok video that I got tagged in where this
Oh, kangaroos will kick your ass, man.
Window, so they went
You don't want to square against one of those things.
They realized that these two creatures fighting outside of their house were rabbits.
Oh,
Most people
rabbits?
know rabbits as being a very soft and docile pet that are usually not very aggressive and kind of just coexist with one another. But rabbits actually do have the capability to fight as well as be aggressive if the circumstance arises.
Interesting.
What's really interesting about rabbits is the way that they fight is kind of like boxing. They'll end up getting up on their hind legs and start hitting each other in the face with their paws. Now, you might be tempted to think that their paws can't do a lot of damage, but you would be completely wrong. These right here are what their claws look like, and yes, they do have the capability to take the life of their fellow rabbits, and they will do it if they have to.
These animals
I'm gonna go down to this one thing about this, what looks to be a radium dial. Owning this clock is a death wish. Dangerous.
Owning this clock. Money.
Yep. That is it right there. You know what this is. Hard to see, but can I turn my brightness down? See how that dial is yellow? That is the characteristic of one very infamous clock. That is a radium dial. Radium dials were produced roughly around the 20s and 30s when radium was thought to have healing benefits. It would remove weakness, cure female weakness. And I'm not saying that as a joke. They actually did claim that radium would cure female weakness. In fact, if you're worried about quote-unquote female weakness, that's funny because it would cause weakness, not only to females, but to everybody. As when radium is in the same group as calcium, it goes into your bones literally almost exactly how calcium does. And instead of making your bones stronger, the radiation basically makes your bone into a honeycomb, significantly weakening it. Eventually, a bunch of the girls who made these clocks, they started falling ill, and the workers claimed that it was syphilis, although it wasn't. It was obvious radium poisoning. Although, here's where it gets interesting. The men downstairs of the same factory had hazmat suits. These guys were trying to do their best to avoid contacting radium. Their nails. I mean, think about this, right? I want you to pretend for a second, right? Pretend like you don't know anything about radiation. It's not dangerous, right? This is a fairly new thing, right? Radioactive objects were seen as a pretty interesting thing. They are today. Like, they are not only seen as pretty interesting, but they were seen as, you know, like, healthy. They're not. Like, anyway, continuing this. So, yeah. Another fun fact is, yeah, if you see these dials, they're definitely radium clocks. Again, here's my precaution. Avoid taking the thing apart. Please, whatever you do, do not take these apart. They are extremely dangerous once you start taking them apart. I saw an exposed dial. It wasn't way too dangerous. I've seen dials go up to 100 microsieverts a second or an hour. Okay? That's as much as Orange Fiesta wear. You're saying, oh, okay, that's not as bad. Thing is, the dial was smaller. This wasn't like a big dial. The dial was like, the watch itself was like this big. It was the size of like a nickel or quarter. It was a small dial. And the thing was hot. Like radioactive as hell. But yeah, this guy owns a radium.
This clock is a death wish.
By the way, no, it's not a death wish. I have a radium clock. The best, your end table. Do not put it at the foot of your bed. Do not put it in areas where you're going to be around a lot. Because if you do, you will suffer the side effects for prolonged exposure. Again, short-term exposure, external exposure is not that harmful if you limit it to a certain amount of time. If you spend hours and hours consecutively with it, you're going to start seeing effects sooner or later. And if you ingest it, you're going to have extreme problems. Like, just look up the problem. Again, they emit radon, so I would advise not breathing in the air around these clocks. Yeah.
If you own a clock like this, it's probably in your best interest to not keep it very close to you. This is a video on TikTok that quite a few of you guys tagged me in, and it showcases this clock that looks obviously old. This otherwise normal looking clock though, in the dark, actually glows, and this right here is not a very good sign. This means that the clock was likely constructed with the use of radium, a highly radioactive material, and this is also confirmed when this person holds a Geiger counter up to it, and we can see that it is indeed quite radioactive.
Woo!
Now, as we previously...
Shit! 4,300 counts per minute, and that's beta coming from it. That's insane.
About there are three main types of radiation: alpha, beta, and gamma, with gamma being the most dangerous. In its base state, this radium is most likely not going to be too dangerous because it's going to primarily be releasing alpha particles. The real danger is present when you consume radium. Believe it or not, a lot of people used to do this back in the day when these clocks were being built. If you've never heard of the Radium Girls, look them up. There are some horrific accidents because of this radium consumption. Owning this, why is she growing?
Why, you always be careful who you trust.
Oh boy.
Money.
That doesn't look like
Even
that
though
much.
this video
That's a
doesn't
pirate.
look like a big deal. It's a much bigger deal than you think it is. This video right here has little to no context. It just shows this guy right here pointing to a small boat off the side of a ship. This small boat doesn't look too threatening at all. There's only 2 people on this craft, but this is something that you have to be careful of. In certain regions around the world, probably the most well-known being Somalia, pirates actually still exist. These pirates are typically traveling around in smaller groups on smaller watercraft, and they'll usually board cargo ships to take control of precious cargo. These pirates usually don't have the most advanced technology, but what they lack in this, they make up for in their stealthiness. This is because they have such small craft, it's usually hard to spot them. And the problem has become so dire that ships are forced to put anti-piracy deterrents on board, like this razor wire that prevents them from climbing on. As for this small watercraft right here, I highly doubt that this right here is a pirate ship, but it could be, and you can't be too careful.
Why, you always be careful who you... Would you swim in this whirlpool for $1 million?
No, I would absolutely not jump in this whirlpool, even for $1 million. In the clip that you guys just watched, we can see this guy throwing a reasonably...
No! That's suicide. The moment you get in one of those whirlpools, you are not swimming out. You are going to die, okay? It does not matter if you're an expert swimmer. It just doesn't matter. Skill does not matter. You will drown in these whirlpools. They are known to be dangerous like these. You can watch it suck down a log effortlessly. What makes you think it won't suck down a person even more easier?
Log into this body of water. This log then lands in the whirlpool, and it seems as though it's going to stay afloat, but it gets completely sucked down about a minute later. And this clip right here is a perfect example of how dangerous whirlpools truly are, even smaller ones like the ones seen in the video. Whirlpools are created when there's a hole below a body of water, and the water starts to travel in. Water will then travel in a clockwise or counterclockwise position, and this is what creates that vortex and the suction-like effect. People have attempted to swim in whirlpools before. I'm sure that many of you guys are familiar with this guy right here, Jacob, who swam in a whirlpool and inevitably ended up losing his life. This video is found on YouTube, and it is very tragic. In this particular case, this appears to be a field that's flooded, and they opened up a hole to drain it, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Would you...
This boy just saved the whole school.
Money. I know you might.
I saw this video. He broke it,
right here might
and it
have
actually-
saved the entire school. One of you guys sent me this video through Instagram,
And, he
it shows
exposed
this
a
kid right
faulty,
here doing jump rope in the high school
thing.
hallway. Top end of this jump rope ends up hitting one of these fire sprinklers, and the water starts shooting down on top of him. Then at the end of the video, we can see people being evacuated, but instead of water coming out of the sprinkler system, it's a bunch of black sludge. And this black sludge right here is really not a good sign when it comes to a water sprinkler system. Usually these water sprinkler systems are going to use metal pipes, and over time these metal pipes corrode and oxidize. Eventually this corrosion can get so bad that it can actually end up blocking pipes. This is obviously extremely dangerous because when water is needed to put out a fire, if the pipes are blocked, the fire won't get put out. But through the accidental case of this guy breaking one of the sprinklers, the school learned that if there was a fire, it probably would not get put out.
This salmon is already... If you have a... This could kill everyone on the plane.
When you're flying in a plane, this situation right here is probably one of the most dangerous things that you could go through. Without any prior knowledge, it might be hard to understand why this is so dangerous. Pilots are approaching the runway, about to make a landing, roughly 30 feet above the tarmac. Within less than a second, they end up dropping about 10 to 15 feet rapidly because of something known as wind shear.
Wind shear.
Is usually going to be the result of a weather system moving in. On this diagram, you can see that this is when wind...
I've heard of that when it comes to
direction,
tornadoes.
And it's usually going to be downward. This, of course, can end up causing the pilots to lose control of the plane, causing them to crash. According to pilots that have experienced wind shear, it almost feels like an invisible hand that just takes the top of the plane and pushes it straight down. In order to combat this, you have to be extremely reactive and put full power so that you can take off and do another go-around. Key to surviving wind shear is to react as quickly as possible. If you don't, you could end up losing your life.
That was not... Why are there so many crows in Houston?
That's weird.
If any of you guys watching this video right now live in Houston, this is something you're probably aware of. Recently, there's been a massive murder of crows. This essentially just means a group of crows traveling
It's so
around
weird
the
how you
Houston
call
area,
them murder.
monopolizing certain residential and commercial areas. This video showcases just how many crows there are in one area, and believe it or not, this is not uncommon. Crows oftentimes are going to travel in very large groups. There's a few reasons why crows travel together in such large groups. The first one, of course, is going to be safety. If there's such a large number of them, it's unlikely that that one specific crow is going to get preyed on. Number two is that they're communal sleepers. This means you're more likely to see a large group of crows when the nighttime is coming because they sleep in a large group. This is something that I'm actually very familiar with. Back when I was going to college at the University of Washington, our sports fields were constantly covered with crows at night, and when we went out to play intramural sports, this is what it would look like.
Why are there so many crows in Houston? If you find this, just leave it alone.
I can miss him.
What is coming out of Hillary Clinton's mouth?
Well,
Alright guys, before the comments become a political battleground with people debating different opinions, this video has nothing to do with politics at all, and just has to do with this video itself. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in that shows Hillary Clinton talking at what I believe to be some sort of rally. Before drinking this water, Hillary was coughing for about 2 to 3 minutes, and you can see that in the background right here, there's this sort of green substance that shoots out of her mouth. Now, this video right here tied into the whole reptilian movement, saying that a lot of our major politicians are reptiles. And I've got to admit, the first time I watched this, I was very puzzled as to what this could be. A lot of people thought this might be phlegm that she was coughing up, but it seems a little bit too dense to be phlegm. After doing a reverse image check though, the original video right here does not show this green phlegm. For context, the original video here was posted the day of the event, which means I believe that this whole entire thing was just edited.
What?
weird.
This is something you should know about.
Yeah, my sister's boyfriend would want to, like,
Alright,
off
guys,
himself
I know that
seeing this
summertime
video.
seems like it's a long way in
It's
the
a bee
future,
going
but
into a straw, and he hates
aware of
bees.
when it finally rolls around. This video right here shows somebody outside enjoying a drink, and they're recording a honeybee that seems to be interested in their straw. A few seconds later, though, the honeybee ends up crawling into the opening of the straw and going down, so it's obscured from view. Well, obviously, if this person had not been paying attention and they went to take a drink, this honeybee probably would have stung them in the mouth. Though this has happened in the past, this is something that happens more often with cans and more often with wasps.
Because they love sugar.
These insects are constantly going after your drinks is because of the sugar content in them. With that being said, being stung in the mouth or really...
Yeah, I know that experience of being swarmed by bees.
Here, 8.7 is the upper lip, which is the second most highest, and 9 is the nostril, which is the highest. Taking it a step further, if you're allergic to bees, this could be life-threatening.
This is something
That is so
you should know
awful.
about. Why you met? If this is outside your house, it's time to move.
Uh-oh,
Guys, I
that's
can tell you right
lava.
now, I would not be hanging out inside of my house if this was outside. This is a video that I got tagged in a very long time ago, and it recently resurfaced. It shows this guy recording a window, and we can see this dark colored object sitting outside. When he goes outside and we have a better view, we can see that this thing is absolutely massive, and it is moving forward slowly. If you guys guessed that this right here is the result of a volcano, then you are correct. The object that was touching this guy's house is known as a lava flow. There are a few different types of lava flows, but fortunately the one in the video that you guys saw is a slow-moving one known as block lava. Block lava is essentially just a bunch of volcanic rocks that are very sharp, sitting on top of a slow-moving flow, and it's a little bit cooler than other lava flows. Even though it's cooler than other lava flows, it's still not very cool. It can be around 700 degrees Fahrenheit, and it causes things to spontaneously combust when it touches them.
If this is outside your house, it's time to move.
Yeah.
This deer is already dead. It just doesn't know it.
Oh, shoot that thing.
Deer that have this disease...
Shoot it. That is a shoot-on-sight deer. But Race, that's cruel. No. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why you shoot deer that... If you see an animal in the wild that's acting like that, shoot them. Here is a very good reason. Because, well, I don't know if you've ever heard about this. You know, there's these very infamous disease called rabies. You hear that? Or it's called wasting disease. It's been getting more common. It's where deer just waste away. I don't know why the hell it happens, but they just waste and they die very slowly. Right? Now, anyway, rabies, like, trust me, if you kill an animal with rabies, you're putting it out of its misery. Here's the thing. If you get bit by an animal with rabies and you don't get immediately vaccinated, you will die. Rabies is extremely fatal and it should be taken serious. Which is why you don't go pet animals in the middle of the wilderness. You leave them alone. If you start seeing animals that start acting sus, go away from them. They are known to probably be carrying rabies. If you get rabies and you are feeling symptoms, you're already lost. You might as well just get it over with. I mean, yeah, just what I said.
Here are known as zombie deer, and this is because
Wasting
even though they're
disease.
alive now, they won't be for very much longer. This clip right here shows a deer that looks relatively normal, but it's behaving very erratically. It's repeatedly running around in circles, it's very disoriented, and not afraid of the human recording it at all. It's all in part due...
Again, if there is a deer and it's not moving away from you, you need to leave. Because in my country, or no, my state, I live in Illinois, okay? And Illinois is very infamous for having deer, and deer are pretty skittish. I've came across a deer, like a baby, that would not move away. Like, it went really close to me. Like, I went close to a baby deer once. Very big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I could have almost contracted rabies. And either that or the mother could have gotten mad and killed me. I'm actually, now I think about it, I'm actually kind of lucky to even get out of that. To a certain degree. But anyway. Yeah, so basically, if a deer are very skittish of people, and they will avoid you if they can. If they're cornered, they might fight back. But usually they will leave the area. They will go away.
...to an absolutely terrifying disease known as CWD, or chronic wasting disease.
Yeah.
Now, this disease right here is caused by misshapen prions. These are not bacteria or viruses.
Prions.
They don't even have DNA in them.
Shoot.
CWD has been spreading more and more in the wild.
Prions are interesting. They're like this thing, and they... Here's the problem about prions. If I'm not wrong, they target your brain. Do they? They're very special. They're not a virus. They're not a disease. They're not even bacteria. It's a certain type of microorganism called prion. Prions refer to the abnormal pathogenic agents that are transmissible and are able to induce abnormal folding with specific normal cellular proteins called prions, proteins that are found mostly abundantly in the brain. Memory, impairment, personality changes, and difficulties with movement. So basically, these things will go for your brain.
Deer because it's very easy, and prions live for a very long time. It's also relatively easy to spot a deer that has CWD because they usually look pretty malnourished and very disoriented without having any fear of people. That being said, even though CWD hasn't been shown to directly be transmitted to humans, it is highly recommended that you do not consume meat that's infected with CWD.
This deer is up. Whatever you do, don't go over the spillway.
Okay, I have a very interesting story with this. My dad has done a lot of crazy stuff, alright? So there's this thing. You'd be wondering, what in the world is a spillway? A spillway is a structure erected into a body of water that it's like a dam, okay? But instead of generating hydroelectric power, it basically just allows the water to just flow over and safely dump into a lake or river. They're often found near coastal communities or lake communities. For example, go to Lake Bloomington. Lake Bloomington has a spillway, and it's a spillway that I'm going to tell in the story. So spillways, they basically spillways, yeah, they're like these giant walls, and when the water gets too high, they flow over. Now, my dad went down one, and he almost drowned because his undertow. What happens, the water goes down, right? And it curls, and it makes this horizontal spin. This horizontal spin is known as the infamous drowning machine, which, in English, it drowns you. It doesn't get simpler than that. It is one of the most dangerous phenomena in nature. Another big piece of advice, like this one, I'm not saying I don't have a lot of confidence when I say it. I have 100% confidence when I say this. Be careful of beaches in California. Californian beaches have this certain phenomena where the water coils, almost like how, a combine harvester coil spins. And if you get trapped in this coil, you will drown. There's no way to get out of them. Again, my dad survived this, but don't ever go into a spillway. There's buoys around them, because if you do, you'll get sucked down. And
if you're ever tubing down a river and you see this sign right here, get out of the water immediately. This is a video that one of you guys sent to me on Instagram, and it shows these people right here floating down a river on a normal summer day. The only problem is, this sign right here says spillway ahead, portage left. Then a couple seconds later, the friend that's ahead is there one moment and gone the next. That's because this right here is the spillway, which is essentially just a drop off down the river.
Now, if you're unlucky, you're gonna get transported into a spillway with a whole spillway. And yes, I know it's a stupid, weird name, but these spillways are also called glory hole spillways. And those are the ones you don't want to be in at all. Because basically, instead of going down a wall, you're going into a tube. And a tube, you can coil around, and you can fall and tumble into the tube. And it just basically becomes hell on earth. You may not survive that at all. Anyway. Another thing with spillways is that if you can stand on this, there's no way to stand. My dad told me that when he was sliding down the spillway, it's slick. You can't even get traction.
These spillways can mean a lot of different things. There's 7 different types, and one of the most common ones is this one right here, which is just a drop-off spillway, and usually they're massive and they sit behind dams. Spillways that are located in rivers, on the other hand, are typically going to be a little bit smaller, like the one seen in the photo behind me. No doubt this right here is one of these smaller spillways, but even though it's small, it can still be pretty dangerous to go over, especially if the water level is high. In any event, this is not as dangerous as you might have thought initially, but it's still a pretty bad idea.
Whatever you do, if this bird is chasing you, you better run.
Oh, that's a mean bird.
If this creature is chasing you, you better run, because if it catches you, you could lose your life. This is a video that one of you guys DM'd me on Instagram, and it shows this guy inside of an enclosure running away from a very large, angry-looking bird. This guy runs and weaves through a few trees while this bird continues to chase him before eventually getting lucky and
it looks like a relative of the terror bird.
before the bird catches him. What we're looking at in this video is dubbed as the world's most dangerous bird, known as the cassowary. These freakishly large, deadly birds live exactly where you would expect, Australia. And though they're typically not very aggressive, you definitely don't want to piss one off because they can kill you. The photo that you guys see behind me, we get to take a very close look at what cassowary's claws look like. When they get angry, they're going to end up chasing you and eventually trying to kick you with these dagger-sized claws. Unfortunately, attacks are pretty rare, but when they do occur, they're not pretty.
If this bird is... These two girls are making a horrible mistake.
What these two girls are doing right here is highly irresponsible.
I wanna cry. You dumbasses, why? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, but that's just YouTube bans me for calling someone a dumbit. Anyway, why am I calling these girls stupid? You're sitting in a claw that scooped up debris from Reactor 4. Do you realize how contaminated that is? That is a very radioactive object. That is called the... What is it called? The Death Claw? Or the Claw of Death? And there's... Okay, before we go any further, there's a misconception that if you touch the claw once, you're gonna die. That's not gonna happen, okay? In fact, you can actually remain around it for relatively a short amount of time, and then you definitely want to be going. But yeah, this claw was used to scoop up old radioactive debris out of Chernobyl, and they basically, instead of responsibly containing it, they just threw it out in the woods and just let it rot. However, stalkers, people who basically just live in Chernobyl, have been having wars. They've painted the claw pink, they painted it green, they've painted it zebra, which is why if you look at the claw, you will actually see that it has so many different colors. Some people even vow to remove the paint, or to basically paint it back to its yellow color. Now, another thing to know about this claw, again, it's radioactive. You definitely shouldn't be sitting in it. If you sit in it, my recommendation is literally trash. Do not wear the clothes you wore in that claw ever again. They are contaminated. Anyway, massive balls to the people. Like, the people who literally paint these have massive balls because you have to sit there. And then you have to probably inhale the fume that's picking up a few radioactive particles. Which, again, balls to the people that paint this thing. Again, I don't recommend doing it. It's defacing a historic object, and it's dangerous. You're prolonging your exposure to radiation. Yeah.
And it's something that you should never ever do. This is a TikTok slideshow that I was tagged in, where the first slide shows the Chernobyl radioactive claw, the second slide shows a device they use to measure radiation, and the third slide shows these two girls making a horrible mistake sitting inside of the claw. Those that don't know, one of the worst nuclear disasters in history happened back in 1986.
It's rated as a 7 out of 7 on the nuclear disaster scale.
During the cleanup attempts of Chernobyl, they used a lot of equipment, including this right here, the Chernobyl radioactive claw. Now, any source that you go to online is going to say that sitting in this claw or even touching it is very dangerous. Sitting in this claw, these girls are exposing themselves to radiation as well as radioactive objects that can get tracked onto their clothing. From here, if they bring this home, they're going to be in close proximity to this for a very long time, and this can end up causing them to get sick or even get cancer.
Now what makes something like a piece of Fiestaware safer than this, okay? When an explosion happens, material can get put into a state where there's just very small chunks of it. Now, there could be chunks like this big, or there could be chunks the size of, like, just very small pieces of dust, right? Now, here's a problem. A piece of uranium glass is not a big threat because uranium glass is one piece. Uranium glass basically it's not dust, and it's all in one contained piece, so long as the glass is actually kept not broken. If the glass is not broken or cracked, then it's not really that dangerous. In fact, the highest piece of rim glass readings I've ever gotten was 20 microsievert an hour. Roughly that. That doesn't really come close to like FiestaWare's 100 micros an hour. But again, my suggestion. Alright, I'm sorry if I keep tracking myself, like I keep long trapping this, but anyway, the problem about this is that when the explosion of Chernobyl happened, it made a bunch of that fuel into, like, dust. Now, this dust was picked up, and it was basically put onto the claw. This claw has radioactive contamination. The radiation doesn't contaminate, right? The particles do, okay? Radiation, basically, it just when the radiation rays, they go off and fly off, right? Now, I've even tested this, right? I've put items close to radioactive objects, and I've scanned them after months of prolonged exposure with literally no signs of contamination. However, if stuff that emits radiation is like attracted to an object or stuck onto an object, that object is considered contaminated. Now, again, this claw basically picked up radioactive dust, and that dust is stuck on the claw's blades or fingers, whatever you call them. And now, because of that, the claw's contaminated. And the bad thing is that these contaminants could rub off on you if you're not being careful. You really don't want to be messing with this claw. Let's see.
Why do Corky's Skyops float in water?
What the hell?
As silly and ridiculous as this sounds, this is actually 100% true. This is a video that popped up on my For You page, and it's got a pretty bold claim here saying, did you know that a corgi's butt always floats in water? The video that goes along with this is a corgi's bottom half submerged in water, and a few seconds later, the corgi's bottom half ends up floating up. Yes, after quite a bit of research, this claim actually checks out to be accurate. The corgi bubble butt, as it turns out, is also a flotation device. This was not purposefully built in for any evolutionary advantage, but this is the result of how they were bred and their body stature. As you can see from the anatomy chart, the majority of the bones are going to be located up towards the top half, whereas the bottom half is pretty much open. With the bottom half open, this leaves quite a bit of room for a little bit of muscle, for them to walk, but it's estimated that the majority of this bottom half right here, their bubble butt, is 80% fat. And of course, adipose tissue or fat does float in water.
Why do corgi? If your balloon does this, it's haunted.
Hell.
I'm about to give you guys some of the most useless information that you're never going to use, but hey, at least you'll know it. So this right here is a TikTok video that quite a few of you guys tagged me in, and it's supposed to be pretty creepy. It shows a relatively normal foil-looking balloon doing something very odd, walking down the stairs towards the person recording. It gives the appearance of walking down the stairs, and this led a lot of people to believe that this balloon might be haunted or possessed. I'm here to say, unfortunately, the real world is not that exciting, and this is a pretty easily explainable phenomenon. Obviously, balloons are filled with helium. This is what helps them float, and over time they'll end up deflating slowly. This is because helium molecules are extremely small, and over time they end up undergoing a process known as diffusion. This is where helium molecules slowly escape through the surface of the balloon. When this happens, they become less buoyant, and halfway through this diffusion process, balloons will partially float, but not all the way. And when you add that cold air flows down the stairs in a house, this is why this balloon is getting pushed this way.
If your balloon does... This fish is already dead, it just doesn't know it.
What the hell is it doing?
For those of you watching this that own a fish, if they start doing this, then you need to take immediate action to save its life. This TikTok video right here shows an aquarium where a fish is present that looks relatively normal. But even though this fish looks fine, it's definitely not because it's swimming extremely erratically and twirling around in circles. What's even more concerning here is that there's more than just this one fish exhibiting this behavior, meaning there's something systematic going on. For those of you that own fish, you'll know that they're extremely sensitive to the type of water that you put in their
They
tank.
are.
Even the smallest amount of a certain chemical could be the difference between life and death.
Yup.
Seeing as most people will fill their tanks using tap water because it's cheap, this is actually not necessarily the best idea. This is because these water purification companies will end up putting chlorine and other different chemicals in it to disinfect it. Chlorine is extremely detrimental to a fish's health, and if they're swimming in a circle like this, it means that they're in agony. Fortunately, you can buy different products that do neutralize chlorine.
Would you wear these gloves for $1 million?
What are they?
Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This right here is extremely impressive because this is one of the most painful things that you could ever do. In the beginning of this video, you can see this guy. His face looks pretty apprehensive, and it's because he's about to put this glove on. The glove is then fastened onto his hand, and surprisingly, he has little to no reaction when the gloves are on, and this is very, very impressive. This is because the gloves that he's wearing are known as bullet ant gloves. This is something that's utilized by a tribe in the Amazon known as the Satare Mawi.
Bullet
It's
ants?
almost like a rite of passage into manhood. In order to prepare for this ritual, the young boys are going to be sent off to collect bullet ants. These guys are usually between the ages of 10 and 12.
Bullet ants. Oh gosh.
On 20 times over the course of around 10 minutes. Pain inflicted by
Bullet
the
ants
is
are
supposedly
painful as
the worst
hell.
And the pain lasts for around 24 hours.
You don't want to be bit by one of those.
Why are they throwing water on this worker?
To cool him down while he's handling metal.
Alright, so there's not a lot of context to this video here, so let's just start breaking it down. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where this man is repeatedly throwing water on this worker right here. This worker then starts to handle red hot steel. He pulls it out, drops it, and sends it back through this machine right here known as a roller. So first and foremost, a lot of people were wondering why this worker is dousing this guy in water. The explanation is very simple.
Because the water basically creates this layer where he can temporarily handle hot iron like this, but only for a few minutes.
Orange, which means the steel is around 900 to 950 degrees Fahrenheit. The water this guy is throwing is ice cold, and this helps to keep this worker cool while he's standing around this hot steel. Another shocking thing you might have noticed here is this guy working with the steel is wearing flip-flops. Now this is definitely in violation of a lot of guidelines, but this video right here was most likely taken in China, where they're a little bit more lax about the...
If you have a pool, this might be in it.
Oh, that looks like a parasite.
Relatively
It goes up
recently,
the
a family found one of these in their pool, and if you have a pool, you might find one in yours as well. This video right here shows a parasitic worm that was pulled from a
That looks like one of those worms.
This particular horsehair worm right here.
Yep, it's a horsehair. I knew
as
it.
previously mentioned, it is parasitic, but you don't have to worry. They don't infect humans.
They will
The
kill
horsehair worm's
crickets
prey
and
of choice
insects.
is invertebrates, and usually it's going to infect insects like the praying mantis
Mhm.
or certain types of beetles.
They'll go up its butt
Horsehair worms
and they'll
infect
eat it from the
insects when
inside.
insect consumes
And when they
prey,
die, they
consumes
come
horsehair
out
worm
and
eggs.
it's
Once
creepy.
the horsehair worm is inside of a suitable host, it's going to end up growing and slowly consuming the inside of this insect's body. It will then control and force the insects to walk to a body of water, where the horsehair worm is going to end up erupting from the prey's abdomen. This explains exactly why this horsehair worm was found in a pool, because this is a body of water. You don't have to worry though, as long as you take care of your pool, the horsehair worm is not going to be able to survive.
If you have a pool, this might be in it.
Relatively recently, a family found one of these.
This man is about to make a huge mistake.
Oh no!
Sorry guys for the...
Oh boy. Yup, I already know where that one's going. That is a very bad idea. Okay, let me explain what the hell just happened here. That guy just did a sin. That guy just did a restaurant sin. He just put water in a fryer, okay? So, miniature story at my work, okay? It's not a bad story. Nobody got hurt or anything. Yes, I'm sorry for the people that like to watch people get hurt. But anyway, I was just walking in the hallway, right? Near, like, I was walking in the kitchen of my restaurant. I hear a pop. It was like a miniature explosion, like a little baby explosion. I'm like, what in the world is that? And my cook said, oh, a drop of water got into the fire. I'm like, what? Before that moment, I knew one thing. Don't. And again, this is information in a fryer, let alone ice. There's a very good reason for this. It's because that iron, if you allow water or ice to go into a fryer, it will explode. And it will basically, or it'll do this fizzy thing where it'll basically just destroy the entire frying system. They're very dangerous.
Cut off, but the end of this video got pretty bad and there's no way I could post it. This video right here was recorded obviously in some sort of commercial kitchen, and as you can see there's a small grease fire going on right here. Now this worker right here doesn't seem to pay too much attention to it because it's really not that big of a deal right now. A few seconds later, another worker runs into frame with a small bucket of water and then ends up dumping it onto this grease fire. Now if you guys don't know what happens when a bucket of water is poured onto a grease fire, let me tell you, it is very bad. This photo right here does a pretty good job of doing it justice. This was a setup experiment by a fire department where they poured water onto a grease/oil fire. What this does is essentially spread the oil out, and it almost has an explosive-like effect. In this particular video, flames cover the entire screen, it obscures everything, and then we don't know what happens afterwards. If you are going to put out an oil fire, use the lid of a pan, a fire extinguisher, or baking soda. Do not use any of these items.
This man nearly went over the edge.
I saw this video.
If you can't see it, you're already dead.
Now, I'm gonna need you guys to be honest here. Did you spot this massive snake sneaking up on this lady and her sleeping baby? Well, I have bad news. If you didn't, you're already dead. This video right here shows a massive snake sneaking up on this lady, looking to
Looks like a green anaconda.
Around 45 seconds to finally spot this snake before grabbing her child and running off. Now, it's extremely difficult to actually identify what kind of snake this is based off of the poor quality of this video, but this likely looks to be a python. And let me tell you, depending on the type of python that we're dealing with here, they can be absolutely massive, and yes, they do have the capability to prey on humans, even fully grown men. For those that don't know, pythons like to constrict their victims, they're not venomous. After their prey has lost its life, they're going to end up swallowing the prey whole and slowly digesting it. Unfortunately, it's extremely uncommon for a python to attack and consume a human, but it has happened in the past. Usually the only time they attack, though, is in self-defense.
If you can't... This mouse is already dead. It just... Always be careful of ghost nets.
Oh boy.
If you see this in the water, you should not get your boat close to it, and you should also report it. This is a video that popped up on my For You page, and it had a lot of people freaked out, and it triggered their thalassophobia. It shows something very large and eerie looking hidden under the water, and this is something known as a ghost net. As many of you guys know, commercial fishing usually involves these very large nets that they drop into the ocean, they leave for some time, they come pick it up, and they get their catch. Over time, these large nets can become worn down or become unrecoverable, so these commercial fishermen just leave it in the water. These nets can be left here for a very long time, and they can be very hard to see. And there's a few different reasons why they're so bad. For one, if you have a boat and you run it into one of these, it can get stuck in the prop, and you can pretty much just be stuck out of the water. But more concerning is the environmental impact. This large net can end up entrapping fish and then attract larger predators that also get trapped, and it really ruins the ecosystem.
Oh wait, if you pick this up, you will turn into venom.
What the hell is that
Look,
thing?
I know this looks very strange, but believe it or not, you can actually make this at home for pretty close to $0. This video popped up on my For You page, and it shows a man holding a black gelatinous blob. He drops it onto a plate below, and it starts gliding around and moving almost like it's alive. It ends up following this guy's hand back and forth for about 30 seconds, and many people were confused, saying that this was venom. Unfortunately, though, the real explanation is not nearly as exciting. This is something related to ferrofluid.
Ferrofluid!
This is essentially...
Okay, it's basic. If I'm not wrong, it's basically this fuel, right? Now, you know how a car works. You get gas, and the gas basically goes into your tank, and it fuels your car. Okay, now what about space? Here's a problem with space. There ain't no gravity. How's the gravity supposed to go? You know, how's the fuel supposed to? Well, here's the thing. You need to make that fuel magnetic. When you do this, you make what is known as ferrofluid. And ferrofluid is amazing because basically it's, if not wrong, a magnetic fuel that allows rockets to basically work in space.
Just magnetic liquid. And when you hold a magnet below it, it creates a pretty cool illusion. Ferrofluid is very easy to make at home. All you need are some iron filings, and then you need vegetable oil. You just put it together and mix it up. If you want to take it a step further and make it look like venom, then you need to add something a little bit more gelatinous like Jell-O. Once you have this, you can put a magnet below it and have it follow the magnet back and forth, and it will...
I need to try this. My dad has a shop and he produces iron shavings all the time.
This is something that you should never ever do.
You are a dumbass. You're going to die.
So unless you're trying to lose one of your legs, this right here is an absolutely horrible idea.
He's kicking a chain.
Were tagging me in this TikTok
A big
video,
chain.
and I've got to...
By the way, we bought these things called drag line buckets. They are big buckets. And basically what these buckets are is that they're mining buckets and they have these chains. And one of the chains is like this big and they're 5 pounds each. These chains look like they're like 15 plus pounds each. Now, that's 15 pounds isn't a whole lot. Now, this changes when you actually need to, you know, this changes when you have a bunch of them put together. This guy, if he keeps doing this, he's gonna get his leg caught into this chain and ripped off.
I was pretty shocked to see this. This guy right here is on a ship, and he's doing something known as an anchor drop, which is where you release the anchor. Instead of this anchor smoothly sliding down here, there's a little bit of a jam, so this guy right here decides that he's going to kick the chain out of place and get the anchor moving. Now this does work and he's okay, but still, this is a horrible idea. Depending on the type of chain used, each link can weigh between 30 to 300 pounds. The openings in these chains also offer a perfect spot for you to get your foot stuck, or at least the tip of your boot. And with this machinery, this portion being known as the windlass, there's a lot of places for your foot to end up breaking off if it does get caught in the chain. And even though they typically don't do this, these have broken down in the past, and they can be even more dangerous when they do so.
This is something... Would you do this job for $1 million?
Well guys, the information I'm about to give you in this video is not going to help you at all. I'm not going to lie, but at least you'll know it. This right here is a video that I got tagged in, and a lot of people were freaked out about it. This guy's below a house or structure in the foundation doing some work. The thing that people were really freaked out about in this video are these orbs that can be seen pretty much everywhere down here. A lot of people seem to think that these right here are spider eggs, but in reality this is not the case. You can see in the beginning of the video that a ton of these are covering the ground, and again, no spider is going to be able to produce this many eggs. Rather, these are something known as styrofoam beads or styrofoam pearls, and they do have a purpose. Typically, these styrofoam beads are going to be used as an insulator. This is because they have excellent thermal properties. They prevent heat from escaping the house or entering the house depending on what season it is. Another benefit to these is they offer no nutritional value to pests or plants that are common household problems. In my eyes, the only reason you would not do a job like this is if you had claustrophobia.
Would you do this job? These people must have a death wish.
Oh, one of those sliding bookcases.
Alright, you know what? I'm going to admit it. This right here looks like a lot of fun, and I would 100% try it. Even though this looks like a lot of fun, it also looks like a really bad idea. These people right here are simply running through this aisle, but there's a catch. This entire library shelf right here is moving in, kind of like something you would see in a saw trap. Both of them, they're known as cantilever shelves. Essentially, the entire purpose of these cantilever shelves is to store more books in a smaller space. In order to go into a certain aisle, you just move these levers right here, and the books will move along this track. But let's just play a hypothetical game. If you were running down this aisle and this was closing at the same time and you got caught inside, what would happen? Nothing. These shelves have an automatic safety system where if they detect a force opposing its movement, it immediately stops.
These people must have a death. If this video creeps you out, here's the reason
Just
why.
a lady staring creepily.
This right here is another amazing example of a topic that we covered a couple weeks ago, the uncanny valley. This video right here shows a very dimly lit room and what many would consider to be a creepy face hiding in the shadows. Now this right here of course is fake, this is not real, but it's designed to elicit a response based on the uncanny valley because this right here is claiming not to be human. If you've heard the term uncanny valley before but you're not familiar, here's what it is. The uncanny valley has everything to do with robots and AI. It states that the more human a robot looks, the more it looks human enough that you might associate it with that. And this is where you get these creepy robots that partially look human, but there's just something a little bit off, kind of like a skinwalker. This whole uncanny valley thing has become a trend as well, with people doing different makeup to make themselves look like these AI robots.
If this video... This man must have a death wish.
Going under those giant waves? Yeah, you do.
I can guarantee you that this guy is not going to be feeling good tomorrow. This is a TikTok video that quite a few of you guys tagged me in, where this guy can be seen trying to go out into the ocean and catch this wave right here. He tries to get under this wave to avoid getting slammed onto the beach, but as you can see right here, he does not get under it, and he gets actually picked up and thrown down. And in this frame, you can see a massive mistake that he makes trying to break his fall with his arm. This, of course, is going to result in a pretty nasty snap. But what makes this so dangerous is the size of this wave and the unpreparedness of this guy. Smaller waves on average deliver around 100 pounds of force per square foot, while larger 1,000 to 1,250 pounds of force to break. With a wave of this side, if this guy had landed incorrectly, he definitely could have lost his leg.
Do this wrong and you'll lose your fingers.
Oh my gosh.
So if I'm going to be honest with you guys, this activity right here looks like something I would 100% do, but there's one concern I would have. This video right here shows this lady practicing on something known as a German wheel, and I believe the caption said she was doing this in preparation for a circus event. On the German wheel, you use momentum to make flashy combinations, and this will oftentimes stun the crowd. But on one particular scene right here, she ends up flipping herself up onto the top of the wheel, and then she follows the wheel all the way down, and somehow does not crush her fingers. This was a question that a lot of people had: how is this possible? Well, first and foremost, a lot of these German wheels are going to have these small handlebars on the inside to prevent your fingers from getting crushed. However, there are certain moves that you do where you are going to be gripping that outside railing. And it is 100% possible to crush your fingers here and break them. From what I understand, what these people do is they flip their fingers up very quickly, and a lot of people can't even pick that up.
Do this wrong. Why would they breed a dog?
It's a glorious day, guys. I just checked the subreddit, and we have over 1,000 members now, which is super dope. Let's see what some people are posting. Sweet, dude. We've got some IDK Sterling fan art. This is pretty cool. I like this cartoon. 10 out of 10 right here. Okay, we've got this one too. I appreciate that you tried. It kind of reminds me of Pablo Picasso. I'm a little bit weirded out by the I love IDK Sterling everywhere, but still, 8 out of 10. Okay, I oddly like this. It kind of reminds me of Curtis Connor. I look like I would be his older brother or something like that. Okay, this is not me. 4 out of 10 on this one. We got a little meme here. You asleep? Yes, IDK Sterling wheeled up. Yeah, this is definitely me, guys. 100%. I can't even show this one, but I can't imagine the person that put countless hours into drawing this. This is drawn extremely well, and it is extremely vulgar. What would compel you to draw this? I don't even want to know. If you guys want to see this full one, you have to go on the subreddit. There's no possible way that I can show this, but trust me.
Why is this guy tied up to the boat's railing?
I have no explanation for that.
Once I explain to you guys what this is and why this is here, this will make complete sense to you. This video right here shows what looks to be a man tied up to the railing of this boat. When the person recording gets closer though, we can see that this is not a real live human.
Oh, smart!
This right here
It's
raises
probably to
one
ward off
question for
pirates.
People watching this video: why would you have a mannequin tied up to the railing of the ship, meant to look like a person? The answer is actually very simple. For those that didn't know, pirates are actually still active today. They are not a thing of the past, and they ride around on these smaller boats right here with newer technology, hijacking ships and taking any valuables that they can get. Mannequins are one of the many ways that boats defend themselves from being hijacked. Makes it look like there's more crew members on board and that they're attentive at all times. If you guys didn't notice, they also have barbed wire lining the railings here to prevent them from climbing on board.
This looks like daytime, but watch to the end.
That's an electrical explosion.
This video right here might seem impossible to explain, but don't worry, I've got you. The video that you guys saw in the intro was recorded in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it went super viral because the sky turned from gray to dark blue to night. And this prompted a bunch of people to say that the sky was glitching, that this was the end of the world, etc. Now, I've got to admit, if you don't know what's going on here, this looks very strange. But you guys already know, I've got
That's an electrical failure.
up for you guys. Now, here's the deal. There are not many things that can provide this much light to completely illuminate the night sky. Number one thing that came to my mind when I first watched this video was electrical fire, and after doing some background research, this was completely correct. Apparently, relatively close to where these videos were filmed, an electric substrate station caught fire, which is what lit the night
That'll
sky.
do it.
During electrical fires, there will be very bright flashes of light,
Yeah.
and they will change colors as well.
This looks like daytime.
That is correct. They do change colors, and they are hella bright.
This video right here might...
I knew it.
If this is the tadpole, imagine what it grows into.
That's a big tadpole.
Welcome back to another video where the information I'm going to give you won't help you at all, but at least you'll know it. So quite a few of you guys tagged me in this video here where this person is storing what looks to be a massive tadpole in a bucket. They pick it up and it is indeed a tadpole, but who knew that they grew to these proportions? Well, these are not just your ordinary tadpoles. These are known as Goliath frog tadpoles. And as the name Goliath suggests, these guys are absolutely massive.
Dude.
Large Goliath frog tadpoles can grow close to a foot in length and weigh a couple pounds.
That is a
But still, this
beast
isn't
right
even
there.
close to what they actually turn into. The Goliath frog is even larger.
My God.
13 inches in length.
That chunker.
Pounds, which is kind of like an ordinary house cat. Now, their diet's going to be similar to what you would expect. Insects, small crustaceans, small fish, but on occasion they will eat small mammals, birds, or even bats.
If this is the tadpole, what is below this guy's skin?
The hell? It's one of these people that changes their body.
Like this before, you might be pretty confused as to what's going on. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in a very
It's one of these
long
people
time
that
ago,
do
but
these
finally-
body changes. I've seen people like color their eyes. I've seen people like I don't even know how to explain it. Like do extreme body transformations. It's insane how these guys can do this.
Here we can see this guy biting
impressive.
a bunch of these bumps on his arm. He then shows the camera his arm, and he's showcasing these right here, which are known as subdermal skin implants. This guy is obviously very into body modification. He's got
Yep,
a variety
body
of different
modification.
piercings and tattoos, and this right here is just another subcategory of that. In my opinion, subdermal implants are a little bit more extreme than a tattoo or a piercing. It involves putting silicone into a mold of your choice and then pretty much surgically implanting it under your skin. Now, people will get all kinds of designs for these, and these are more cosmetic, but there are other uses to subdermal implants like cheek implantations, which are supposed to make your cheekbones higher. This is relatively safe, but if you have this done in an unsterile or unprofessional environment, the injury from implanting this could get infected.
What is below this guy's skin? Never own a Kodiak bear as a pet.
Why?
There are very few people on this earth as insane as this dude right here. This right here is a video that was posted to the r/nope Reddit, and this one is definitely a big nope. It shows this man right here, which is the trainer for this bear, named Bart. In this scene, they're shooting an outro, and then Bart ends up knocking over his trainer and pretty much just manhandling him. There's pretty much nothing that you can do in this situation right here. This guy's just gonna have to wait for Bart to get bored or want to move. Now, Bart was a male Kodiak bear that weighed close to 1,800 pounds, and he was 9 feet 7 inches tall. To put that in perspective, this is a photo right here of Robert Wadlow, the world's tallest man, at 8 feet 11 inches, and Bart would be towering over him. Despite the fact that I personally would never trust a bear like this, especially one that could kill you in one blow, Bart was a pretty successful actor, and he never attacked anybody. Bart has since passed away at the age of 23, and here's a photo of his owner and Bart too on his grave.
Never own a Kodiak.
One day, that is all I...
Letting your dog do this could kill it.
The information I'm about to give you in this video could eventually end up saving your dog's life one day. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where it shows this person's dog chasing a swan far out into the water and the owner chasing after the dog trying to get it away. Now, this owner is definitely doing the right thing here because swans are very dangerous. The owner successfully grabs his dog and starts walking the dog out of the water, and the swan quickly turns around and starts chasing them. Fortunately, nothing bad happened here, but this is pretty lucky. Swans are very large, meaning they're a very capable bird of causing injury. Fortunately, swans typically won't be very aggressive unless it's mating season, which is during the spring. With that being said, if it is mating season or if a swan has young, you better be prepared to get your dog and yourself away from them. There are countless news articles online talking about pets' lives being lost due to swans. Again, swans even have the capability to cause harm to humans if you're not careful.
Letting your dog...
Whew.
This is what happens when you lick something that's too cold.
Well, you trying to get
Being
stuck.
a former child myself, this situation right here is probably one of the most terrifying things that you can go through. So this video right here posted to TikTok shows these two getting ready to take a silly photo while posing with their popsicles. Directly after taking the photo, when this kid goes to take the popsicle away from his mouth, he finds out that his tongue is stuck solid to it. Of course, this isn't too dangerous, but it can be a little bit scary, and fortunately they did figure out the situation by pouring water onto his tongue to heat up the popsicle and let him release it. But let's talk about why your tongue gets stuck to things that are below freezing temperature. First and foremost, your tongue is very moist. It's full of saliva, so when you lick something below freezing temperature, this little bit of saliva is going to end up freezing it immediately. This is the same principle that makes ice freeze and stick to the bottom of a cup. On top of this, your tongue is not a smooth object, it's porous with taste buds, which means when the ice freezes, it encapsulates these taste buds and keeps you stuck.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
Never use liquid ice.
Hey.
How is this lighter still lit?
That's a very good question.
If you guys are having a hard time understanding why this lighter didn't go out when this person held it very close to this water, don't worry, I'm gonna break this down for you. So somebody tagged me in this video right here where the caption is, "Bro, WTF, radiation in the water, they say." And as you can see, he's letting his tap run, holds his lighter up to it while it's lit, and instead of the flame being extinguished, it continues to burn and actually wraps all the way around the water. Despite the fact it might seem logical that the water would extinguish the flame, there's a couple reasons that it didn't. First and foremost, lighters are fueled by gas. All of the gas is going to be stored right here. When you hold this button, it will shoot the gas out, spark, and this is what's burning. This means that the entirety of the ignition is happening inside, right near the gas nozzle, and the outside of the flame really doesn't have any impact on this. While this is happening, the water is creating a draft downwards, which will pull the gas with it, making it look like the water's on fire, but in reality, it's not.
How is this lighter? This is what happens when you smoke in your car.
Yuck.
If you smoke in your car, this is probably something that's going on, and you might not even know about it. So in this video right here, this person is cleaning the inside of a car that somebody smokes in pretty frequently. And you might look at this scene and say, this looks relatively clean, but a few seconds later, they place their vacuum on the seat and start sucking out this yellowish brown liquid that is definitely not appealing to look at. And the caption here states, if this comes out of a smoker's car, just imagine their lungs. Well, you guys don't really have to imagine this. Right here is what a healthy lung looks like. It is very full, there's no damage, and the diaphragm is strong. While on the other hand, smokers' lungs over a long period of time smoking will eventually turn black and brown and be much weaker, and your diaphragm won't be as strong. There are thousands of chemicals in cigarettes, but the one that really stains your teeth is tar. This is why you also might notice people that smoke a lot have yellowish or brown fingers. Exhaling tar also gets it into your car seats or anywhere else that you're smoking.
This is what happens.
Smoking's just gross.
No. This is not a slurpfish from Fortnite.
That's a pretty fishy.
I feel like many people did not know this, but the slurpfish from Fortnite is actually a real-life fish. Well, not actually, but this video right here shows a fish that looks eerily similar to the slurpfish. You can see that this guy just reeled in a very blue fish, then he pulls it out, and there is no special effects or editing or even contrast added to this. This is the actual legitimate color of this particular species of fish. This is known as a blue parrotfish. Blue parrotfish can be found all over the ocean. They are not really rare at all, and they live in coral reefs. Typically, these blue parrotfish are going to be looking for algae on the reefs, and this is their main source of food.
Oh yeah.
As you can see, they're a pretty
They'll basically eat right through algae.
Fished for and sometimes consumed as well. The only problem is you don't want to eat too much blue parrotfish because it can be dangerous. Over time, these fish will build up toxins in their body from consuming the algae on coral reefs, and this can get passed over to humans. That being said, these fish are really cool and unique, and they also offer 40 white health.
No. This is not a slurp. Never get close. This is why you don't pour water down a heating vent.
Why would you pour water at... Oh.
Well guys, it doesn't take a genius to understand that doing this is a bad idea, but do you know why? In this low quality meme posted to TikTok, this guy has a very large pot filled with water. And you can see right here there's a heating vent as well. This guy then proceeds to dump the entirety of this pot of water into the heating vent, and then somebody below yells up at him. And from reading the comments, the number one question here is what happens when you pour too much water down a heating vent? Now the answer to this is pretty simple actually. So this right here is what a standard HVAC system might look like in your regular 2-story house. In particular, we're going to want to focus down here. Now depending on which vent you pour water down, the results are going to be different. For example, right here is a vent. If you poured water down this vent, the water would probably just sit here until it eventually evaporated or leaked through and got the insulation wet. But it would be much worse if you poured it into this vent, for example, which leads directly down into electrical components.
Oh,
this
cool.
can cause a lot of damage.
This is why you don't pour water down a heating vent.
Well guys, it doesn't take a genius to understand that doing this is a bad idea.
Less than 50% of people watching this can do this.
Unfortunately, there's only going to be a select group of people watching this video that will have the ability to do this. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where we can see something known as a giant lily pad. I'm sure that most of you guys have heard of the standard lily pads, but these are much larger and more durable. We can also see this lady right here delicately stepping on top, seeing if it will hold her weight. She actually does manage to get on top of it, the lily pad is holding her weight, and eventually later she sits down. Now if you've never heard of a giant lily pad, these things are very large. They can grow around 10 feet in diameter, and they're pretty strong. They're large enough to hold the weight of children, and when weight is dispersed, they can hold up to a 160-pound adult. But unfortunately, if you're somebody like me that weighs 240, this will not hold your weight and you will fall through. The way that it holds so much weight is through these ribbed structures on the bottom that kind of help to disperse the weight and keep it afloat. This is something that you can go travel and do. However, you're only allowed to sit on them for around a minute before getting up.
Less than 50%. Would you camp here for $1 million?
Money. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of information that is not going to benefit you whatsoever, but at least you'll know it. So this is a video that I found on Reddit on r/nope, and let me tell you right here, this is definitely a nope. What we're seeing here are rock climbers on the side of a cliff face, and if you've ever wondered how they spend the night while they're in the middle of a climb, this is your answer. You can see right
they're on a
here,
it took me to realize.
Down here you can see that they've got about a 300 or 400 foot drop.
I just realized, I forgot. I didn't even realize I was on the side of a mountain. Yes, that is normal.
A very arduous climb. And even though they look extremely sketchy, they're actually not dangerous at all. Typically, you're going to be harnessed into your bed right here so you don't end up rolling over and falling off the ledge. And you have from between 5 to 8 points of contact inside of the cliff face, so if one of them fails, you still have a bunch of them holding you up. If you're afraid of heights, this extreme version of camping would definitely not be for you.
Would you camp
No
here?
crap.
What would you do if this happened on your flight?
Whoops, the wheel fell. Oh no.
Out because the last thing you want to see is your landing gear malfunctioning and an entire tire falling off. A few of you guys tagged me in this TikTok video here that was relatively small, and it shows an airplane taking off and this wheel right here falling off. There are warning signs beforehand, the wheels are sparking here, but even though this looks terrifying, this is actually not as big of a deal as you might think. Unfortunately, right now, I'm going to give you some information that you probably don't want to hear. This actually happens more often than you probably would want it to. Immediately after this happens, what the pilots are going to do is turn the plane around and make an emergency landing. Fortunately, in this case, the landing was perfect and very soft. Now, you might think that this right here is end of story, but there actually is other danger in this wheel falling off. Planes are obviously traveling at extremely high speeds, hundreds of miles per hour, and these wheels are very heavy, so when it falls off, whatever it makes contact with, it's going to do some extreme damage.
What would you...
No kidding.
Guys, I'm serious, stop it right now. I get tagged in this video hundreds of times every single day, and it's because people are saying that this guy looks like me. The buffoonery of this dancing style here this guy's engaging in is something that I personally would never do. In other pressing news, the other day I went to the Oregon Zoo and posted this story right here. I just wanted to see if people wanted to meet up or something, grab a drink, but I'm never doing this again. Let's take a look at some of the comments. 3 ballistic missiles incoming. I'm strapped and I'ma find you. That really makes me feel good.
Oh my
On
god.
my way, I've got a pew-pew. You guys know exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my god.
Though I did actually end up getting recognized by somebody, which was pretty cool because, to be honest with you, it's only the second time it's ever happened, and this time I was a lot more cool about it. The first time I was blushing like crazy because it's never happened before. That being said, if you ever do see me in public, you can always feel free to come up. It does not bother me whatsoever. This dude was super chill. Guys,
If you see this creature, run away.
money.
Huh?
Listen here, Santa. That is exactly what this little creature right here wants you to believe. This is actually not true. This right here is a very interesting animal, and by the end of the video, you're probably going to have a lot more respect for them. These people right here are skiing, and you can see there's a very small rodent that's black and yellow approaching them. You can see that this rodent is not afraid of these people whatsoever, and is in fact more so the aggressor. This is a creature that I know many of you guys have heard about before. They're known as lemmings. Now, lemmings have a lot of different reputations for being suicidal and following each other off of cliffs, but one of the strangest things about them is they're extremely brave. Unlike other rodents, like mice for example, that will go out of their way to hide from predators, lemmings go out of their way to attack predators. Most of the time they're going to be the aggressor, and there's tons of hilarious videos online of them attacking the cameraman, cats, dogs, you name it. Surprisingly, this survival tactic works very well, and because lemmings are black and yellow, other animals associate them with dangers, so they don't mess around with it.
If you see this, what did they find in the earth?
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, that... Ew. Yup, that's not a good sign. You just lost a lot of money. It looks like a bunch of weird tendrils, but that's actually... I know what that is. That's fiber optic cable. You just dug into a fiber optic cable. Do you know how much money you're gonna have to pay because of that? You're going to go broke. Oh, that looks like at least a...
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy... Yeah, that's gonna be a very awkward talk to the internet company. They just destroyed at least 100 grand worth of fiber optic.
Alright guys, I'm gonna keep it $1.50 with you. These videos right here are not real. But lately, quite a few of you guys have been tagging me in these videos here that have this very creepy audio with people screaming in the background and showing something that's slightly out of context that most people don't get. This particular video is no exception. They show an excavator pulling something out of the ground that looks very strange. But for those that are unaware, this excavator is actually just pulling out a very old rotted tire. One of the most common ways that people dispose of tires
never mind.
when they don't know where to drop it off is in the ground. They'll dig a very large hole and drop it in. Now, obviously, in most places, this is not going to be legal, which is why they brought an excavator out to remove the tire. A lot of people were also confused as to what these thread-like objects are in the tire. Well, believe it or not,
Oh, yeah, that's like the binding fibers.
Layers, they're not just straight rubber, so these are something known as tire wires. They're pretty much just steel wires that help to reinforce its shape. Once your tire gets worn down to a certain extent, it's going...
What did they find? If you catch this fish, do not touch it.
Oh, money! Now look, I know that video right there was very uncomfortable to watch, but this fish is actually not dangerous towards humans in any way whatsoever. So, quite a few of you guys have been tagging me in this video over the past few weeks. And it shows a very strange, narrow fish on the deck of somebody's boat tweaking out. This thing is writhing back and forth and opening its jaws in a very menacing fashion. Now the fish that we're looking at is a relatively unknown deep sea fish that not a lot of people know about called a lancet fish. These guys live in depths of 100 meters, which is 300 feet, to around 2,000 meters, which is over 6,000 feet. What's really disturbing about these fish, though, is they're cannibalistic, meaning they consume their own kind. If they're young, they're old, it doesn't matter. Their breed is also on the menu for themselves. Now, because of how deep they live in the ocean, it is very rare for humans to come in contact with them. But lately, they've been washing up on the western beaches more and more, and scientists really don't know why this is happening.
Why you can write on a squid's skin?
Unless you're a squid fisherman, this information is probably not going to benefit you whatsoever. But whoever tagged me in this video gave us a very interesting topic to visit. So this video posted to TikTok shows a squid lying on the bottom of somebody's boat that they just caught. The person recording then bends over and writes on the squid's skin, but there's no ink, he's just using his finger. At the end of the video, we can see that this squid's body perfectly inscribed what he wrote, "No war." Now there is absolutely zero editing involved, no magic, this is completely legit. For those that don't know, squids have the ability to camouflage themselves by changing their color. And when you look at their skin closely, you can see all these little dots right here. These are known as chromatophores. Chromatophores have different pigmentation, and by flexing certain muscles and pressing these chromatophores up against the skin of the squid, they can change their color. This diagram right here perfectly illustrates that. When you push down on their skin right here, this will expand the chromatophore and the pigment.
Why you can write?
Interesting.
This is what happens when you don't trim horse hooves.
Oh, as a horse owner, that makes me so sad.
Welcome back, everybody. My Christmas gift to you guys is going to be a very useless piece of information, yet again. So this right here is a TikTok video that I was tagged in that claims that this horse was left in the woods for around 2 years before being found again. And the main focal point of the video are the horse's hooves right here, which appear to be very overgrown. We can see from a closer angle that indeed they are overgrown. They're around 30 centimeters in length. Horses' hooves are essentially the equivalent to your nails. They continuously
to your middle
grow,
finger,
and they
actually.
need to be trimmed, especially when the horse is kept in captivity.
They're basically standing on their middle finger.
As possible in captivity, you need to be trimming it every 6 to 12 weeks. Failure to do so can reduce the performance in your horse, and it can also cause injuries on their hooves, like cracking. Severe cases like the one seen in the photo behind me can really impact the horse's ability to walk as well, which is obviously not a good thing.
This is... If this is in your head, this is the smartest thing I've ever seen.
Oh.
Alright, admit it for just a second, you thought about this and wondered if it actually would work. Obviously, though, I am here to rain on the parade. This here is absolutely not realistic. This would not work in any universe. So this was a TikTok video that quite a few of you guys tagged me in, where this guy attached a magnet to the front of this small car, and then he's attracting the magnet and moving the car with his hand. He then attaches both of these magnets to the car right here and puts the car down, and it starts traveling forward, and you're supposed to think that this magnet attracting the one attached to the front of the car is going to give it some sort of perpetual motion. This does not work from a physics standpoint, but even just a common sense standpoint, it still doesn't work. Common sense wise, in order to get this car to move through the attraction of these two magnets, the magnet has to be detached and moving itself away from this magnet. By attaching both magnets to this car, you completely eliminate the forward movement, so nothing is going to roll forward. This is simply a remote-controlled car.
This is the smartest.
Yeah.
Deer are much more dangerous than you think.
Guys, I can't stress this enough. This is something that you should never ever be doing. So here we've got a video posted to TikTok where this person discovered a deer on a walking path. The deer kind of looks friendly, so they decide to walk up to it, and they start brushing its fur, and for the most part, everything seems to be pretty normal. But approaching wild deer is actually a terrible idea because they are much more dangerous than people give them credit for. Deer on average kill around 450 people per year. Part of this statistic is because deer jump into the middle of the road, causing car accidents, but still a good portion of this number is from actual deer attacks, physical confrontation. Now typically this is going to happen during rutting season, and most of these attacks are going to be done by male deer. There are tons of videos online that you can find of deer attacking hunters. I can't show them, but you can look them up. But female deer also do have the capability to attack as well, and this will especially happen when they have young nearby. This is why it's recommended you don't let your animals make contact with deer that have offspring.
Deer are
Yeah, you don't really want to mess
dangerous.
with deer, especially bucks.
If this is in your home, call a professional immediately.
Water bubble. Oh, and you just.
Even though this video here looks pretty funny, this is actually much more serious than you might think it is. So in this clip, this lady noticed that she has something known as a water bubble on her ceiling. So she called the maintenance man, he came over with a bucket and an umbrella, and he popped the water bubble, spilling it all over himself. He then collects the rest of the water falling from the ceiling in this bucket, but this is not where the story ends. Water bubbles are an indication of something much bigger hiding behind the surface. This means that there's likely a leak in one of your pipes somewhere, and water damage in your ceiling is really not a good sign because it kind of rots away at the ceiling and it can cause it to fall through. And obviously, the smaller the water bubble, the better the scenario for you because there's probably less things to fix. But water bubbles, like many other things, can range in severity. If you let it get to this point right here, this is probably not going to be good, and it's going to cost thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to fix. If you find water damage in your ceiling, call a professional immediately.
If this video scares you, you have thalassophobia.
Look guys, I'm extremely sorry if you have thalassophobia because that video probably freaked you out. This was a TikTok video that I was tagged in where this person is recording themselves kayaking, and it kind of looks like he's kayaking on the solid ground. But once he sticks his paddle into what looks to be sand, we can see that there's a very thin layer on top and everything below is water. This is further illustrated when he sticks his camera underwater, and we can see the layer that's covering the surface here. So what is going on here, and do you have to be careful when you go to the beach? Short answer, no, this is also a very normal natural phenomenon. What we were seeing in that previous video is a topic that we've covered a few times in the past here. This guy was looking at pumice. The pumice that you guys see covering the surface of the water was created by an underwater volcano. And the reason that pumice is able to float on top of water are because of the air pockets that are present. This microscopic image right here shows just how many holes there are trapping air, allowing the pumice to float and be less dense than the water itself.
If this video scares you, you have thalassophobia.
Look guys, I'm extremely sorry.
I wouldn't mess with that kangaroo if I were you.
Nope.
I'm sorry, but I am really having a hard time understanding why you would ever do this. This is one of those very small niche videos on TikTok that I got tagged in once, but I was pretty surprised when I watched it. This video shows this lady taunting a full-grown kangaroo.
No.
This thing looks absolutely terrifying, and the only thing holding the kangaroo back from dominating her is this very thin wire fence.
Why not? Why not a kangaroo? Kangaroos destroy! You know how violent kangaroos can be? Kangaroos can whoop. You really don't want to be on the receiving end of damage when it comes to kangaroo. They look friendly, but they can get mean. Like, they will pwn people. Yeah, you...
This condition can... Why does this happen to ice in water?
Probably it's
I'm sure that many of you
fractional
guys have seen
issues.
this creator before. She's known for swimming in freezing waters, popping out, and then eating ice that's shaped like food. But recently, this video that has a different focal point has been getting some recognition, and it's because people are having a hard time explaining what's going on here. You can see that she has a very large sheet of ice with 0 cracks in it. She then drops it into the water, and almost like a light switch turning on, the ice immediately cracks, and it's pretty satisfying. Explaining this phenomenon is actually extremely easy. I'm sure that everybody at one point or another has experienced putting ice into a cup, pouring water in, and the ice makes a few loud pops. This is the exact same thing that's going on in this video.
A diver's
and it has the
license?
same
No, I don't have a
cause. The
diver's
reason this
license.
happens here is because of the temperature difference between the ice and the water itself.
I don't even have
though
scuba
this
diving
water is
equipment.
probably freezing cold, the ice is definitely colder, so when she puts it in there, it puts a lot of stress on the ice itself, and it causes rapid cracking.
Why does
Fun
this
fact of the day, very useful information. Clear ice is a lot stronger than Yep, can't show the rest of that info on the stream. We're also gonna have to take the stream down. I've almost doxed myself once.
Don't get too close to this mutant deer.
What the hell? That deer is
Believe it or not,
messed up.
this little guy right here is actually a little bit more dangerous to humans than you might think. This is a TikTok video that I've been tagged in numerous times, and the main focal point of this video are these openings right here on this deer's head. While this person is feeding this deer, the openings in its face, which are actually glands, are popping out non-stop. And it does kind of look like something you would see in Guardians of the Galaxy. The deer that we're looking at here are known as muntjac deer, and these openings right here are scent glands that they use to mark their territory. This is also a great way for them to communicate with one another, and typically they're going to be larger in males. This is not the only strange thing that these deer have over other deer. They're also known as vampire deer because they have these 2 fangs that protrude on either side of their face.
What the
These are
hell?
also going to be much larger in males, and it's thought that these are also used to attract mates as well. Now, with that being said, muntjac are actually quite small deer, but they're actually pretty aggressive
Ah.
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That is a very small baby deer.
Close to this
It's a very small deer.
Would you do this job for $40,000 a year?
Oh, what is...
Initially, when you first watch
Oh.
this, you might be tempted to say yes, because this doesn't look too bad. We can see a guy here in some
Oh.
sort of brown liquid starting to ascend. He's got a full diving suit on, and they start to spray him off with water. Everything seems relatively normal. Kind of looks like he's just diving in mud. But this stuff right here caked around his body is not mud, rather it's sewage.
Yeah.
Sewage divers do exactly what their job sounds like. If they dive in sewage, they'll typically go down to repair sewage valves or pipes or things of this sort.
Hats off to
They
the
follow
people
under
that do
broader
that
scope
job.
hazmat divers, which need special
You
training.
do like one of the
Because
worst,
they're trained
most
to chemicals, you're not
disgusting
swimming in,
jobs.
They're trained to recover bodies,
But-
and of course trained to swim in sewage. Now, if you live in the
Somebody's
United
gotta
States,
do
the
it.
top annual salary for a sewer diver is going to be $28 an hour, which equates to around
Seriously?
$50,000 per year. Whereas the average pay in the United States is around $22 per hour or $45,000 per year.
Would you do this job?
40,000, I'm sorry, okay? I don't want to sound spoiled, but 20 a year for swimming in sewage? Okay, come on, people, okay? Like, no, 100 grand, nothing less, okay? I'm not like working in an office, no, I'm swimming in crap! I'm swimming in a biohazardous waste. You could at least pay me? Please? It's disgusting.
Never ever stand in front of an airplane engine.
No. Get pulled in, idiot.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of something that you should never ever do. So this video right here was posted to TikTok.
Idiot, you're gonna
It
get
shows
sucked
this guy
in.
walking up to a very large plane engine before departing. He gets extremely close and we can see the scale of these
You
plane
are an
engines.
idiot.
And a lot of people were concerned that he was going to get sucked in. Fortunately for him though, this was during the loading phase, so the engines were not on, meaning he wouldn't be able to get sucked in. But with that being said, if the jet engine had been on and he was standing in front of it, it would not have gone very well. These engines have an insane amount of suction power. Right here, this diagram shows that if you're within 14 feet of itself, you're in the danger zone and you could get sucked in. There are tons of videos online as well that I can't show, but they illustrate this. This one in particular, this guy got dangerously close to this engine and it sucked in one of the cones that he was going to place out. Fortunately, he didn't get pulled in. Even standing behind the engines is extremely dangerous too.
Never ever. What did they find in the ocean depths?
A weird tendril
If
thing.
you've never seen this animal before,
I think I've seen that.
90% of the people in the comments on the original video had no idea what this was. This guy pulled in a very strange looking creature that kind of looks like a plant, except it's moving. Upon closer examination, we can see all of these different arms here moving back and forth.
I've seen something like that. I don't know what it is.
Now, typically, basket starfish are not going to look this creepy. They look a little bit more normal in their actual habitat. The basket star usually resides at a depth of around 30 to 90 feet, and basically what it does is it just sits there and waits for food to swim into its arms. This video I'm about to show you gives you a perfect example of how this works. I want you guys to direct your attention to right here. You'll see a fish swim in and the basket star capture it. Alright, keep your attention right over here. Here's the fish. You can see that it gets caught in the basket star's arms, and then the arms slowly will start to curl inwards and prevent it from leaving.
Oh man, that sucks.
What did they find?
There are so many awful ways to die as a fish, whether it be eaten whole or complete,
If you've never seen
or
this
be
animal,
slowly killed, or snatched by Bob at one.
Snow to wine.
and this video right here is your sign.
Okay, well, there's this thing called dysentery, and it's found in a lot of blub bodies, which is why you probably shouldn't really be licking ice when it or snow when it falls from the sky. It's dysentery. It's like a disease that basically spreads by water, if I'm not wrong. And gastroenteritis cause include bacterial infection. Symptoms include diarrhea. Blah 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 blah. What caused infection? Bacterial from.
Add snow to your wine. Here we've got a TikTok video that quite a few of you guys tagged me in this morning, where this lady is adding snow to a glass and then pouring wine. He then does end up consuming it, but to be honest with you, I'm not even sure what the purpose of adding snow to your wine does. I suppose it does help cool it off a little bit, but I would imagine that it would water it down quite a bit too. In any event, there's a lot of conflicting information on how safe it is to consume snow, so here's everything that you need to know. First and foremost, as snow falls through the atmosphere, it kind of acts as like a detox. What it does is it picks up different pollutants and chemicals that are present in the atmosphere. So with this being said, it's not recommended that you consume snow that just freshly fell. Another thing that snow can contain are DNA fragments from different bacteria, or it can even contain bacteria itself that's living. If you are planning on consuming snow, get snow that's been falling for around 3 hours so it's done picking up pollutants, and get it from a clean spot.
Why you shouldn't add snow to wine. 99.9% of people didn't know this existed.
Okay, look, I know that this right here looks absolutely insane, but there is a very valid explanation for why this creature looks so big. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where this elephant right here appears to be charging off a creature much larger than it. What makes it even crazier is the elephant is actually in the foreground, which will make it look larger in comparison to the creature. What we're looking at here in the background is something known as a giant eland bull. Now before you think the giant eland bull is larger than a full-grown elephant, this right here is a baby elephant, which puts this much more in perspective. With that being said, giant eland bulls are still very large. Males can grow up to around 2,200 pounds in weight, and at their shoulder level be taller than 6 foot. Here's a photo of what looks to be a relatively malnourished eland bull standing next to a full-grown male lion. They are known on occasion to be able to hold their own against lions, especially if it's just a single lion.
99. Never touch electric
Well, you want to touch electrical?
I'm sorry about cutting off the video right there, guys, but you know how community guidelines go. Nevertheless, you can imagine exactly what happens in this situation here. This guy right here has caught an electric eel in his net, but he's being smart and not touching it. This guy, on the other hand, marches up and promptly grabs the electric eel, and at this exact moment, the electric eel doles out a dose of electricity. The guy in the striped yellow shirt then ends up falling into the water, and he gets up later completely fine. Electric eels, of course, as their name suggests, have the ability to electrocute things that are in close proximity. Now, typically this is going to be used on prey, but it is used to escape predators on occasion. Now, when it comes to humans, it's not as fatal as you might think. People oftentimes will touch electric eels for YouTube videos and get electrocuted. It's kind of comparable to touching an electric fence. The time where it really becomes dangerous is if you're swimming and you're shocked. Typically what this is going to do is make you drown. And if you get shocked repeatedly, you can have heart failure as well.
This is how camels can eat cactus.
Okay, guys, don't worry. This person is not baiting the camel into eating this cactus. This is going to be completely fine. This was a TikTok video that I was tagged in that had quite a few people angry in the comments. This is because this person put some other type of food on top of this cactus, and a lot of people thought that they were baiting the camel into eating the cactus.
To me, it looks like the camel's eating it naturally. Don't camels live in the desert?
Before finally consuming it completely. Now again, you guys don't have to worry because camels' mouths have actually adapted to have the ability to consume cactus without too much pain. While the camels can still feel the thorns, they have these hardened structures right here, these that are called papillae, and these help to guide the thorns away from actually poking into the skin. You have to realize, when you're living in the desert, you don't really have very many options for food to eat.
Exactly.
So cactus is definitely going to be on the list because it's high in nutrient value and it also has water.
This is how... Why you should never eat fast food pizza.
Well guys, if you like ordering pizza from Little Caesars, I've got some bad news. This right here is how they make their pizza sauce. At least, that's what this video here claims. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in that had quite a few people enraged when they first saw it. It shows this guy claiming that he's making Little Caesars pizza sauce. We've got this very brown, gross-looking water. We've got tomato paste, and he's just mixing it together on the floor with a power drill. At the end of the video, we can see the final product, and yes, this does look like pizza sauce. Here's the deal though, the gross brown-looking water is actually just the seasoning packet, and to be honest, this massive fast food chain that has to serve cheap pizza at a mass scale, this seems pretty normal to me. In order to serve pizza at such a cheap price, you're going to have to cut corners, and that might include just getting tomato paste, seasoning, water, and mixing it together.
Why?
Yeah.
This manta is already dead. It just doesn't know
Because
it.
it's beached. This poor manta.
I'm sorry guys, I know that a lot of you like manta rays, but this video is not going to be very happy. So this was a TikTok video that I was tagged in where these fishermen ended up pulling up a very large creature during a fishing trip. The creature that they pulled up is a manta ray, and you can see just how large these manta rays are in comparison to the people walking around in the back. And unfortunately, manta rays are actually fished for human consumption and other medicinal purposes. Depending on the type of manta that you pull in, they can vary in size, but in general, they're going to be extremely large. Smaller ones ranging up to 14 feet across, larger ones can range 22 feet or higher. They can also weigh thousands of pounds. This one in particular ended up actually capsizing a boat by accident, and it weighed 5,000 pounds. Now, even though they're harmless to humans, they actually do have a name that would suggest otherwise. A lot of people call them devilfish, but this is completely misrepresentation in my opinion.
This manta is already dead. It just doesn't know it. Why you never sleep with your phone under your...
I've seen this one.
This man is already dead. He just doesn't know it.
I'm sure that a lot of you guys have seen this video in one way or another, and there's a bunch of misinformation floating around about it. And fortunately, Santa is incorrect here. This guy is not going to die, but let me explain what's going on. This was an experiment that was conducted to show how thermal shadows are created. This guy is standing in front of very intense heat radiation and casting a shadow onto the wall. And after only a few minutes of standing in front of this wall in this position, he leaves, but his shadow stays there. Now, when people heard the term radiation, they thought that he was standing in front of some sort of nuclear explosion, but this is not the case. In reality, he was standing in front of a plain wall, and the natural heat radiation source that they were using for this experiment was actually just the sun. They also then used a thermal camera to capture the thermal shadow on the wall, and that's also why his skin tone might have seemed a little bit off. This whole entire experiment essentially just shows the temperature difference between where this guy was blocking the sunlight on the wall versus where the sunlight was actually able to make contact with the wall.
Huh.
This tree has been gushing since the 1990s.
This is one of those rare videos posted to TikTok where the caption is actually correct. So the caption on this video claims that this tree has been gushing water since the 1990s. And as we can see here, this tree looks like there's a tap that's been installed in it because there's so much water coming out of its trunk. Later in the video, we get to go to the front of the tree, and it looks the exact same. Now, it's extremely hard to explain this phenomenon if it's something that you've never seen before. Now, the tree that we're looking at here is very well known, and it's been doing this since the 1990s. It's a mulberry tree located in Montenegro. On the inside of the tree, there is a very large hollow space that allows water to travel through it. And this tree sits on top of underground springs, and in the spring and autumn time when there's a bunch of rain, these springs become overloaded with water. From here, there's only one place for the water to go, through this hollow trunk, and this results in the tree spewing out water.
This
Interesting.
gushing. Why does this deer have skin tumors?
If this is something that you've never seen before, then this could definitely be pretty freaky. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where these people were driving past this deer right here that looks normal, save for the very strange growths coming off of its body. And when the person recording gets closer, we can see that these growths kind of look like tumors. Even though this deer looks like something from The Last of Us, this is actually not that dangerous for the deer, but it is very unsightly. What we're looking at is known as deer fibromas. This condition is typically going to impact deers that are located in North America. These fibromas are actually skin tumors, and they're caused by a virus known as the papillomavirus. And with that being said, the papillomavirus is actually responsible for giving humans warts. Fortunately, this virus that gives deer fibromatosis cannot specifically be passed to humans. Also, even though this looks extremely bad for the deer, this is not as dangerous as you might think. It's only bad if it grows over the eyes or mouth to prevent them from seeing or eating.
If your chicken looks like this, don't eat it.
Yuck.
If you've ever ordered a crispy chicken sandwich from Burger King and it turns up looking like this, don't eat it. This is a sentiment that's been spread for quite a while, and I've seen this video many times, but this is actually not necessarily true. As you can see, this person ordered a crispy chicken sandwich, and when they opened it up, it had a very strange appearance on the inside. It looks extremely dry, and it definitely does not look like chicken. Here's the deal though, this is actually pretty normal for a fast food restaurant, and to be honest, for most other processed chicken products. This is because the fried chicken patties are not actually solid chicken, but it's blended chicken like the one seen in the photo above me. There's also going to be a variety of preservatives as well because it's mass produced, so they need to make sure that it stays fresh. When you cook this, this is likely what it's going to end up looking like because it is blended chicken with preservatives. If you want something that looks more like actual chicken, then you should probably opt for a grilled chicken sandwich.
Why you don't leave your window down in the forest.
Why would you do this?
If I'm being honest here, if I woke up and saw this right outside of my open car window, it would be getting a .45 caliber right between the eyes. This is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where this person claims that they left the window open while they were sleeping in their car, and this strange creature walked up and started looking through it. Many people in the comments thought that this was a cougar, given the fact that it kind of has feline-like features and yellow eyes. But here's the deal. I'm actually going to have to disagree with this and say that this video is fake. Firstly, while cougars can have somewhat yellowish eyes, they're not going to be straight up yellow like the one seen in the video. Secondly, cougars are actually very fearful of humans, and they go to great lengths to avoid them. In fact, the only time a cougar is really going to attack is if its young is close or if it's cornered and feels threatened. And third, the movements here are not very congruent with what any creature would do. Rather, my theory is that this is some sort of cat or cougar mask that somebody's holding up and moving for the purpose of the video.
Why you don't leave your window. Never wear black around a tortoise.
What?
Despite
Why
the
is
fact
a tortoise
that I know
say
what
black?
the comments are going to be before posting this video, this is actually something that turtles and tortoises hate, the color black. This guy
Oh,
makes
come
a
on.
video
Black's
showcasing
cool.
this with
It's
his
so
very
modernistic.
pet. This video in particular, this guy has a shoe where he's placed a piece of white tape, and his pet doesn't care at all. But once he removes the white tape, the tortoise ends up headbutting it and attacking it. Now, this is actually an adaptation that the tortoise evolved over many years. Believe it or not, one of the most common predators for adolescent tortoises and turtles are ravens. And obviously, it doesn't take very much to connect the dots here and see that tortoises are going to associate the color black with their predators. Another relatively common predator of adolescent tortoises and turtles are raccoons as well, which also have quite a bit of darker accents to their fur. This in turn means that whenever a tortoise or a turtle sees something that's pitch black, they're likely going to attack with a reasonable amount of aggression.
That's weird.
This snail is already dead, it just doesn't know it.
Even though it looks like this snake is afraid of this snail, that is not the case, and the snail is already dead. This was a TikTok video that I was tagged in where the snake makes contact with the snail, and it looks pretty shocked. The snake inspects it for a short period of time before going to work. About 7 minutes for the snake to completely consume the snail, and we can see reminders of what once was a snail. Now, the snake that we're looking at is known as a keeled slug-eating snake, and these guys are known for consuming slugs as well as snails. Snails are typically going to have the upper hand during transactions with predators because they have a nice protective shell. However, the keeled slug-eating snake has a completely different tactic that renders the shell useless. These snakes actually have the ability to suck the snail like spaghetti out of its shell.
That is so creepy.
Pulsating, gyrating movement that progressively pulls the snail down their throat. And over time, the snail becomes so loose that it eventually can't hold onto its shell anymore, and the snake wins.
That is a bad way to die. It's sucked out of your shell.
Go to the doctor.
What is wrong with this dude's hand? Oh!
How calm this person is to be able to film a TikTok video after her entire palm just fell off. This right here is a TikTok video that I was tagged in where this lady's entire palm pretty much comes off. This is what her palm looks like after the entire layer of skin is removed, and you can see that this is a pretty sizable piece of skin as well. We're not just talking about something small. Now, a lot of people in the comments here were talking about something known as scarlet fever, saying that they've had similar symptoms after getting the sickness. Scarlet fever causes rashes, and as the rash fades, the skin can eventually start to peel. This could be the case, but in general, this condition is known as keratolysis exfoliativa. And this can be caused from a variety of different things, and it's not necessarily dangerous. One of the most common causes of this are household cleaners and chemicals like laundry detergent. When you pour this on your skin, you can get chemical burns, which in turn can cause your skin to peel off, and in some cases, it can be pretty severe like this.
If this happens to your hand, go to the doctor. Can somebody please explain what's going on?
Thing's on crack.
If this is your first time seeing this animal, don't worry, I've got you covered. We're going to explain everything. This is a very out of context video that was posted to TikTok, and it shows this antelope jumping around this person that's filming. Though the jumping is quite strange, the strangest part is this very large patch of white fur that appears to be raised on the rear end of the antelope. The creature in question is referred to as a springbok antelope. These guys are located in South Africa, and they're extremely well known for their ability to jump high. Now, when they feel threatened or excited, they're going to perform an activity known as pronking.
That's
this is what
cute.
we saw in the previous video where they jump on all fours repetitively. This is to show their predators that they're extremely agile and that they shouldn't be chased, and this is also just to show off in general. And because springbok have such fast predators like cheetahs, for example, they're extremely fast as well and very agile. They can run up to 55 miles per hour or around 90 kilometers per hour.
Okay, I want let's go.
Why you shouldn't walk
There's this
past-
video of Orange Fiesta where I'm not watching it. I saved it for this. By the way, I'm about to sign off. It's almost time for me to sleepy sleepy. Eating off this plate is a death sentence.
Hearing problems. Try
Oh my god, I hate these ads.
tomorrow.
Don't listen to them, they're
This
fake.
If you find this red plate, don't eat off of it.
Yep, I know exactly what that is. That's Orange Fiestaware. What is Orange Fiestaware? Orange Fiestaware is actually a very common old Fiestaware, almost a century old. They were first made back in the 1930s in the Depression to color up your home. They came in the first 5 rarities, which is orange, ivory, lapis lazuli blue, sky blue, and fadey yellow. Kind of. Anyway, it's these 5 plates, right? Okay, what's so special? Well, the orange plates use uranium oxide to actually to give it its color. And because of this, the Orange Fiestaware plates are radioactive. I've posted a few videos of them on my channel. Let me go get my phone. I actually have a piece of Orange Fiestaware. Yeah, like, look at this. Look at this guy's Geiger counter. Does that look a little bit familiar to you? It's the exact same one. It's a oh, he has a 320. I used to have a 320. I still do, but it's like broke. The tube is completely broken. Okay, chat. Give me a second. I'm gonna show you the video. I have a video on my iPad of me actually messing around with this stuff. Oh, here it is.
So you're getting this high reading. Your module that this one has. It's a lot lower. In fact, the high skim.
Right.
So this one's more sensitive. Yep.
That's what it sounds like when you put a Geiger counter on top of an orange Fiesta thing.
So this bowl.
Okay, let's play the video. Let's see it.
If you're ever rummaging around the attic and you find a plate that looks like this, whatever you do not eat off of it. Unfortunately, many of you guys won't find one of these in your house, but this is still a very interesting topic. As you can see, this lady
Orange
right here has a red
Fiesta-ware.
plate and places a Geiger counter on top of it, which basically measures radiation, and the counter starts going up. At the end of the video, it reaches over 5,000 CPM.
That's strong.
A lot of people were very concerned with this lady owning a radioactive plate. These plates were created back in the 1930s by a company known as Fiesta-ware. The reason that they're radioactive is from something known as uranium oxide. This is the compound that gives it its very red appearance. In order to understand how dangerous this is, you need to know that there are three main types of radiation.
Alpha, beta, gamma.
Alpha, beta, and
Gamma.
Alpha radiation is
Is
by far the weakest, unable to puncture your topmost layer of skin.
But it is
And these
dangerous if you get it in you.
progressively get stronger the further down we go. Unfortunately, uranium oxide pretty much only emits alpha radiation, so holding this is really not going to be very bad, nor is it going to be very dangerous to have it in your home. The only time alpha radiation is dangerous is when it's in your body, and this is why you don't want to eat on it, because some of this uranium can actually leach into your food.
This is why I'm okay with orange Fiesta-ware, because it's uranium, which isn't way too dangerous. But it's dangerous. Let me explain, right? Uranium's actually very common. You can actually, you definitely have a piece of it on your property, whether it be a chunk of this big or a chunk literally like the size of a grain of sand. There's uranium molecules on your property. In fact, I'm not wrong, uranium actually is more common than gold. Let's see, uranium ppm. Actually, give me a second. I have a book. Oh, I have a book that tells me the rarity. Okay, so let's. I love this book. You can just flip through all the elements. Let's see. Gold. Its percent in the Earth crust is 0.00000031, and the percent in your body is 0.000010. Why is there a 0 after that 1? That's useless. You can truncate that. Again, the Earth's crust is 0.00000031% gold. Let's go over to uranium, however. At the uranium. The percent of the crust that is uranium is 0.00018. There was 6 zeros following the point. There's only 3 for uranium. The percent in your body is 0.000001. There's a little itty bit in your body. Not too much. It's not a whole lot. But this means that humans have a slight, I'm not going to say immunity, because people are going to take that out of context. They have a slight protection against uranium. Now, in sufficient amounts, uranium will kill you. But we have a slight protection against uranium, but against things like plutonium, we don't have that protection. That's why plutonium is theorized to be very much more dangerous than what's it called, other materials. Okay guys, I'm gonna take a break. I actually played for a while. I actually got a lot done. Anyway, I might be back tomorrow, but I'm probably gonna be doing